Hey there, rockers and rollers. I hope today finds you well and with ears wide open. In this episode, we find a band who created a 5 times platinum album with 2 hits that everyone on the planet has heard. And they decided to throw that winning combination away on their second album by taking their style of music to a heavier, darker place. Now, some would say, myself included, that this album would be the best album the band would ever create. Stay tuned as we travel to New Jersey, and we meet up with the Bon Jovi boys of Skid Row on Don't Miss Albums. Skid Row was formed in 1986 out of Toms River, New Jersey, when guitarist Dave Sabo met bassist Rachel Bolin in a local guitar store where Sabo worked. As they shared similar music influences, they began rehearsing in Bolin's parents' garage. Guitarist Scotty Hill came from Bolin's previous club band, and Sabo's acquaintance, upstate New Yorker Rob Afuso, played drums in a Rush tribute band. Sabo was a childhood friend of John Bon Jovi, and they had agreed if one of them succeeded in the music business, he would help the other out. Skid Row caught the attention of Bon Jovi's manager Doc McGee while opening for Bon Jovi on their 1987 Slippery When Wet tour. McGee suggested the band replace original singer Matt Fallon because he lacked the rest of the group's drive. Sebastian Bach was introduced to Skid Row by the parents of John Bon Jovi, who saw Bach sing at rock photographer Mark Weiss's wedding. After completing the lineup, the group signed with Richie Sambora's and Bon Jovi's publishing company, Underground, unknowingly giving them the lion's share of the group's royalties. This would cause a major rift between Bach and Bon Jovi. Skid Row secured a record deal with Atlantic Records in 1988. Skid Row wrote and recorded its first album, but before they could release it, their management had to pay a reported $35,000 to guitarist Gary Moore for the rights to the name, as it was the name of his and fellow Thin Lizzy member Phil Lynnett's first band. The band's debut self-titled album, Skid Row, released in January 1989 and was an instant success. The record went 5 times platinum on the strength of the top 10 singles 18 and Life, and I Remember You.
Well, I'd stare a lifetime into your eyes, so that I knew that you were there for me. Time after time, you were there for me. Remember yesterday, walking in the night, never let us see the sand. Through the sleepless nights, through every endless day, I wanna hear you say, yo, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Skid Row supported the album by opening for Bon Jovi on their New Jersey tour. Included on this tour was the Moscow Music Peace Festival, August 12th through 13th, 1989, at then called Central Lenin Stadium and now Luzhniki Stadium, which was set up by Doc McGee through the Make a Difference Foundation in order to stay out of jail. You see, McGee was facing drug trafficking charges and therefore set up an anti-drug peace concert in Russia, featuring a few of the artists that he and his brother managed. Bon Jovi, Skid Row, Motley Crue, and the Scorpions were the bands that McGee would bring to Russia. He would also add Gorky Park, Cinderella, and Ozzy to the lineup.
Thinking that Mr. Bush and Mr. Gorbachev are both going to be aware of who Ozzy is going to be pretty historic in its own.
The concert was often chided by the bands themselves as being hypocritical, as many of the musicians were drinking and drugging at the time despite the ties with the Make a Difference Foundation.
You gonna do anything special on stage in Russia? Sing on key.
The event became known for inspiring the song Wind of Change by the Scorpions.
Take me into the magic of the moment on a glory night, where the children of tomorrow dream away in the wind of change.
A ballad which became a soundtrack to the destruction of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of the Soviet Union. The Crooked Media podcast, Winds of Change, provides evidence to suggest that Doc McGee was covertly leveraged by the United States government to produce this concert as a vehicle to create an origin story for the Scorpions song as part of a secret culture operation to influence the Soviet government. Interesting Cold War tactic. The band would record a cover of Sex Pistols' Holidays in the Sun,
But I don't want a holiday in the sun. I wanna go to the New York sun. I wanna see some history. Am I got a reason? Nothing you gotta be. Well, now I got a reason. Now I got a reason. Have I got a reason? And I'm still weird. Now I got a reason. Now I got a reason for the weird.
for the Make a Difference Foundation compilation release Stairway to Heaven, Highway to Hell, on which every band from the festival recorded a cover song from a famous solo artist or rock band who had suffered a drug or alcohol-related death. The liner notes include an extensive dedication list of such artists. Skid Row remained on the road, opening for Motley Crue on their European Dr. Feelgood World Tour in early November 1989 with Mr. Big, which turned into a UK headlining tour with Vane in the opening spot. Skid Row continued touring into 1990, supporting Aerosmith on the North American leg of their Pump tour. Skid Row returned to the studio in 1990 to record its sophomore studio album, Slave to the Grind. The album was released in June 1991 and debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, reaching 2 times platinum status without ever having a radio hit. It was a departure for the band. While Skid Row was an album that followed the typical 1980s band formula, Slave to the Grind had a heavier sound. It produced 5 singles: Monkey Business, Slave to the Grind, Wasted Time, In a Darkened Room, and Quicksand Jesus. 2 different versions of the album were released, the original and a clean version, in which the song Get the Fuck Out is replaced with the less offensive Beggar's Day. Skid Row once again went out on worldwide tour that lasted over a year, including a leg supporting Guns N' Roses in the 1991 Use Your Illusion tour, and an appearance at Monsters of Rock in Castle Donington in 1992. The band then took out Pantera, Soundgarden, LA Guns, and Love Hate as supporting acts as part of the tour supporting Slave to the Grind. Skid Row had originally asked up-and-coming band Nirvana to open for them on the tour, who coincidentally had used the name Skid Row in an earlier incarnation, but they declined. The album was mixed and produced by Michael Wagner. Michael produced the debut self-titled album as well. He has also worked with artists Dokken, Poison, White Lion, Hammerfall, and King's X. Craig Dubé, Riley Connell, and Jim Thomas are credited as engineers. Craig has also worked with Faith No More, Extreme, Nirvana, Warrant, and Rage Against the Machine. Riley has also worked with Danger Danger, Chandelier, Dion, Odds, and Velvet Revolution. Jim has also worked with Exposé, The Cover Girls, Extreme, NTC, and Yngwie Malmsteen. Mastering credit goes to George Marino, who we've discussed prior. George got his start in 1970 with jazz pianist Errol Garner, worked through the likes of Kiss, Billy Idol, and Metallica to reach his latest release from band Baton Rouge, released this past August. Bob Defrin is credited with art direction. Bob has over 900 visual credits on albums, including Eric Clapton, AC/DC, Foreigner, Twisted Sister, and Pantera. David Bjerk, who is Sebastian Bach's father, is credited with design and artwork. David painted the cover art, which is actually a long mural, continued inside the album's booklet. Although it is set in the medieval era, it depicts people using modern technological gadgets. If you look closely, JFK can also be found in the crowd. Skid Row is credited with the writing of the album. Skid Row is Sebastian Bach, vocals. Rachel Bolan, bass. Dave the Snake Sabo, guitars. Scotty Hill, guitars. And Rob Afuso, drums. Monkey Business starts the album off with a mellow acoustic guitar that quickly turns into a full-on assault of the senses. Between the great chorus, the humorous yet aggressive lyrics, and Sebastian's powerful vocal performance, it's no wonder this was the biggest single from the album.
Well, outside my window there's a whole lot of trouble coming. The cartoon killers and the rank of the clones. Static heels kicking a rhythm of social circumcision. I can't close the closet on a shoebox full of bones.
The title track, Slave to the Grind, at number 2, is the heaviest song on the album, and what a song. The boys go all in on this performance, and it definitely shows. The thread at number 3 slows things down, but is still packed with attitude and aggression from the rambling, gritty lyrics of Discontent.
you should realize it's gonna take more than a break in the law to make me smile, pretty for the wrecking ball. Won't be the end of sacrifice. It's a threat to society. Our life, you'll see what you mean to mock you made. A threat to society.
Quicksand Jesus makes its way to the number 4 spot and is the first of 3 ballads on the album. The use of the 12-string acoustic was definitely the right choice for the song, as the extra strings just give this beautiful ambiance to the track.
Amaze the tangled grace. The symptoms of fall real are crumbling from embrace. But still we chase the shadows of belief. A new religion clouds our vision from the roof. Oh, the how we are ashamed of our own face. I'll play the fool for our sake. Tell me who's behind the rain. What do we need? Where do we go? Where we get where we don't know. Why should we doubt the virgin weight of fallen snow when face our shelter from the cold?
Psycho Love at number 5 is a hard and heavy rocker that really shows you how far of a departure from 18 in Life the band tried to get. The bass-centric riffs of this track are gnarly, and the highlight of this tune.
Check out Clementine, cleaning needles in her wine. Face down on a one-eyed world with a brain-dead Valentine. She'll be a zombie, younger than done. A sweet corruption, it's gonna make you, it's gonna break you, yeah. She's saying, "Haunt my house to pay, and feel my psycho love. Give me that shot and pray for rain to heal my psycho love."
The band attempt a punk rock styled track at number 6 called Get the Fuck Out, but in this listener's opinion, it just falls short as soon as Baz opens his gullet.
You don't stay funny and the stuff that you say that I wanna hear. The sound of the door slamming your ass out is some music to my ears. If I can't beat you, then I'm gonna need you to evolve. So give the TV a raise and stack your thoughts to blaze right down to your throat. You're standing too close, what the fuck's with you? You ain't my only and you ain't a tattoo. I don't need to whimper, I don't need to shout. This party's over, so get the fuck out. Get the fuck out!
Living on a Chain Gang starts its ass-kicking ownage at track number 7. Baz is certainly at his best here.
Turn on the TV, 'cause I got nowhere to go. It seems like there's a little trouble down in Mexico. A 13-year-old boy robs a store so he can eat. They got into it inside while killers walk the streets. A hungry politician is the wolf that
Show at number 8 comes off as a bit of a GNR tune, slightly polished yet raw. It's an okay track, and the bluesy undertones work well on the album. The number 9 track, In a Darkened Room, is a beautiful ballad to break up the heavy hitters before and after. It's kind of like eating ginger to clear your palate right before going in on that salmon roll at your favorite sushi place.
Beyond the reach of God's faith lies the wounded, the shattered remains of love betrayed, and the innocence of a child is bought and sold in the name of the damned. The rage of the angels left silent and cold.
I never wanted to be president because it's nothing but an ego trip, Baz exclaims in track 10's hard-thumping riot act. Well, we've seen that analogy many times since 1991.
I never wanted to be president because it's nothing but an ego trip, yeah. I didn't want your education because it's nothing but a pile of shit. You bore me to death, so shut up for God's sake. Stop reading me the riot act while my brains are still intact. You say it's raining, but you're pissing down my back, so stop reading me the riot act.
Mudkicker at number 11 is the heavy metal sleaze rocker of the album, and it does its job at reminiscing the first album.
We stand accused, but you lie. America's faint finger, a prejudice will evil mind. The young get stronger, free living fast, but you're a sap sucker. You ain't gonna live slow. You twisted mouths feed the minds of babes. Talk from buildings, crime and pigs. One man's function is another man's pay, but that's how you play the game.
Wasted Time closes the album out, starting off with an atmospheric and melancholic electric guitar intro before Bach starts singing about his old friend Steven Adler. The song picks up intensity for the chorus and continues increasing in stature until the climax of the song.
You and I together in our lives, sacred times will never fray. Then why can't I let myself tell lies and watch you die every day? I think back to the times when dreams were what mattered. But the horse stampedes and races in the name of desperation. Is it all just wasted time? Can you look at yourself when you think of what you left behind? Is it all just wasted time? Can you live with yourself when you think of what you've left to me?
An EP of covers called Beside Ourselves was released in September 1992. Not only does the EP include cover versions of songs originally recorded by artists that had influenced Skid Row, but it is essentially a compilation of tracks that had previously appeared on B-sides of the Slave to the Grind era singles. Beside Ourselves peaked at number 58 on the Billboard 200, which was Skid Row's lowest chart position to date, and it was certified gold 6 months after its release. After the Slave to the Grind tour ended February 1993 in Australia, where they again opened for Guns N' Roses, Skid Row took an extended hiatus on Doc McGee's recommendation to wait for the grunge movement to fade away. Also during this period, Skid Row parted ways with producer Michael Wagner, due to the music taking a different direction for the follow-up to Slave to the Grind. In 1994, the band returned to the studio with producer Bob Rock to record its third album, Subhuman Race. The members of Skid Row have claimed that its recording sessions were filled with rising tensions between both the band members and Bob, including debates over the album's musical direction, and have also indicated that this was the beginning of the band's strained relationship with Sebastian Bach. Subhuman Race was released in March 1995 and peaked in the top 40 on the US charts, supported by the singles My Enemy, Breakin' Down, and Into Another, the latter being the band's last to chart there. Although the album did not achieve the success of its predecessors, it received mixed to positive reviews and has also been viewed as Skid Row's darkest album. At this point, the band shifted to performing at smaller venues, and its videos were rarely played on MTV, partly because of the rise in popularity of the grunge movement and the subsequent decline of the 1980s style of heavy metal. Skid Row was the opening act for Van Halen on the North American leg of their Balance tour. Eventually, Bach was fired from the band in late 1996 after an argument with Rachel Bolan, who turned down an opening slot on the Kiss reunion tour, even though Bach had already booked it. The other band members told Bach that Skid Row was too big to be an opening act and that they were not going to do the show. Bach then left a message on Snake's answering machine telling them the band would never be too big to open for Kiss, along with a number of insults. This resulted in Snake telling Bach that he would never work with him again. Dangerous Toys vocalist Jason McMaster revealed in a May 2020 interview that he was approached by Sabo and Bolan to audition for Skid Row as Bach's replacement, but turned it down as he was just not a huge fan and was trying to get Toys back on the road. Hilariously, 4 years later, Skid Row was one of the opening acts for the 2000 Kiss farewell tour. In 1998, Skid Row released the compilation album 40 Seasons, The Best of Skid Row, without Bach's input. After Bach's departure, the remaining members continued as Ozone Monday with singer Sean McCabe of Mars Needs Women.
So it goes no matter what you do.
Through 1998 and 99, the group opened for Kiss and Motley Crue under the same name. Skid Row reformed in 1999 with new lead vocalist Johnny Solinger and drummer Phil Varone. After reforming, the band opened for Kiss on its farewell tour, and also played with other 1980s metal bands such as Poison and INXS's bassist Gary Beers. In 2002, they were part of the Rock Never Stops tour. Skid Row released its fourth full-length studio album, Thick Skin, in the summer of 2003, which was the first album to feature Solinger and its first studio album in 8 years. In 2004, Dave Gara was announced as the new drummer. The fifth studio album, Revolutions Per Minute, was released in October 2006 by SPV Records. Wagoner reunited with Skid Row and became this album's producer. In 2007, the band recorded Jingle Bells for a Monster Ballads Christmas album. In January 2008, they performed as part of the Motley Crues with Motley Crue, Rat, and Slaughter. In early 2010, Rob Hammersmith became the band's new drummer. In February 2013, Skid Row signed with Megaforce Records and stated the new material would be released as 3 separate EPs. The first chapter, United World Rebellion, Chapter 1, was released in April 2013 with 2 more EPs set to follow in the following 12 to 18 months. In February 2014, the band began working on the second EP. In August 2014, Skid Row released the second chapter of the trilogy titled Rise of the Damnation Army. In February 2015, Skid Row announced they were writing the third chapter of the United World Rebellion series. In April, Solinger was fired from the band, and the same day it was announced that Tony Harnell, formerly of the Norwegian power metal band TNT, would replace Solinger. That same month, the band released a re-recorded version of its early single 18 in Life as a free download. Harnell left Skid Row in December 2015, and former Dragon Force vocalist ZP Third was filling in as the lead singer for concerts in 2016. In January 2017, ZP Third was named as an official member of the band. In March 2018, it was revealed the band's next release for the United World Rebellion trilogy would now be a full-length album and would be released sometime in 2019. However, this would never come to fruition. In 2019, a deluxe edition of Skid Row's self-titled debut album was released digitally, which included the original album remastered for the first time, with the song Forever being added as a bonus track. As well as a recording of the band's April 28, 1989 performance at the Marquee in Westminster, California. The band members have stated that they had no input in the reissue. In the summer of 2019, former Skid Row singer Sebastian Bach announced plans to perform the band's self-titled debut album in its entirety on tour as a celebration of its 30th anniversary, and issued an open invitation for the band to play on stage with him for the first time since their split, hoping it would result in a proper Skid Row reunion with Bach. Guitarist Dave Snake Sabo declined the offer, while former drummer Rob Afuso subsequently confirmed that he would be joining Bach on stage during the tour. On June 26, 2021, former vocalist Johnny Solinger died 1 month after revealing that he was suffering from liver failure. In a February 2022 interview with the Music Universe, Sabo confirmed that the band's 6th studio album was expected to be released on September 16th. On March 23, 2022, it was announced that the band had parted ways with ZP Thirt. Eric Grunwald joined the band after Thirt's departure. After Grunwald joined, the single, The Gang's All Here, premiered online. The band also announced that their new album, The Gang's All Here, would be released on October 14, 2022. Well, there you have it, rockers and rollers. Skid Row in all their history and glory. I have to admit that in doing the research for this episode, the internet absolutely hates Sebastian Bach. And because of their hatred for him, they kind of piss on the music. I mean, I've never really understood how people will judge art dependent upon the artist. I mean, I've never heard of anybody saying that I can't stand Starry Night because Vincent van Gogh is an idiot who cut off his ear for a woman. Why is that? Are we all so locked in our own bubbles that if anything is outside of our comfort zone, it's immediately shit? I mean, seriously, one of my favorite bands of all time, enough to get a tattoo of their logo, had a bass player with polar opposite political views as me, but it never stopped me from loving their music. Skid Row was an influential rock band with zero fucks to give. That's what rock and roll is supposed to be about, the rebellious angst and push against the societal norm. Go back and listen to Slave to the Grind, and then listen to Pantera's Cowboys from Hell. The influences are fully audible and completely distinguishable. Anselmo used Baz's techniques as much as he possibly could. I mean, even I recorded a version of I Remember You in one of my old punk bands. I'll end the video with it, but just understand it's kind of shitty and maybe a slight bit embarrassing. YOLO, right? Alright, that's it for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it and learned something new, or maybe even found some new music to listen to. If you've enjoyed it, please do as the screen says, and together we'll accomplish this mission of getting us listening to complete albums again, from front to back. Oh yeah, make sure when you're listening, turn it up so the neighbors can enjoy it too. We'll see you on the next episode. Oh, here's my shitty version of I Remember You. Take care.
Welcome to the sound of pouring rain. Wind would whisper and I think of you.